Your business may be growing, but is it actually becoming more valuable? If every decision, client issue, and team question still runs through you, you may not be building a scalable company. You may be building a stressful job. On today's episode of Profit with a Plan, we're talking about how owner-led businesses move from chaos to scalable growth. You'll learn why the owner is often the bottleneck and what lowers exit value, and the four fundamentals every business needs: clear priorities, a weekly execution rhythm, a simple scorecard, and real accountability. And if you want more freedom, stronger enterprise value, and a business that can actually scale, then this is the episode you want to catch. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help business owners grow smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or plan to sell it. I'm Marcia Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. Each week, I bring practical strategies, expert insights, and real-world steps to help you grow revenue, improve margin, and build a stronger business. This episode is brought to you by Infinite Profit, where we turn strategy into profitable growth. But before we jump in, I have something special for you. If revenue has plateaued or your marketing is just not producing the return you should, go get your free profit booster growth map. My mouth is just not working today, so we're going to pound through this. In just a couple of minutes, it helps you identify where to bring in more qualified clients and where profit leaks may be costing you money. So go get yours at profitbooster.biz. And by the way, there's no sales call required. So now let's get into today's conversation. My guest, Thomas Rechtien, is known as the Fixer, and that title surely fits. He has spent more than 25 years stepping into complex businesses, finding real bottlenecks, and helping leadership turn chaos into structure. Thomas has led companies across the U.S. and Europe, including serving as a CEO for a $150 million company, where he helped triple the revenue and significantly improve EBITDA. Today, as the founder and CEO of Rechtien Consult, he helps small to mid-sized businesses, especially in the trades and manufacturing, to create clarity, accountability, and execution systems they need to grow beyond the owner. What I really appreciate about what Thomas is bringing is that it's not just theory, it is conversation. And he sat in the CEO seat, made those tough calls, and knows exactly what it takes to build a business that can scale. Thomas, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast. I hope my mouth can keep working through the rest of
Thank
the
you, Marcia.
show.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Exactly. So, looking at your story, right, and my notes and prepping for this, I notice you have kind of a family history that you started in business. Tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, my family history in business is actually that my grandpa was a carpenter in Germany. Um, and the first project I ever built, I was 4 years old, and I got to sand a piece of wood that became the seat of my little go-kart that's still at my parents' garage to this day. So the seat held over 40, let's say 40 plus years. Let's stay with that. Um,
Nice.
And I've spent a lot of time as a little boy on next to workbenches and then helping my grandpa out in his business until I graduated high school and started my own career.
Nice. So what got you into consulting though? I mean, obviously, you've got this business experience. Why didn't you just stay in business?
Um, Good question, fair question. For me, it was that what do somebody asked me this question the other day, and the question was, who were you before the world told you what to be good at?
Oh, that's a great
So
question.
that sat real deep with me, and that kind of thinking about this, that's where everything made click. I went from carpentry to a banking business, did my apprenticeship in a bank, got my business degree in Germany. Then I went into the steel business. I got a bachelor's degree in German law. And I kept educating myself and I kept working and I kept climbing up the ladder. Um, but yeah, it wasn't totally fulfilling at the end.
Mm.
Maybe that's the midlife too. I don't know. I can't tell you. Maybe in a couple of years I can. But what did it for me is all these things I learned by really doing them and applying them and kind of building my own toolbox without knowing that I was doing that, helping different businesses. At some point, tied me back to my grandpa who ran this business his whole life. He just worked and worked. And when he died, 2 years into retirement, left my grandma
Oh.
barely enough to survive because he never learned how to run a business. He was just a great carpenter. He had his skills were plainly handy. He was not anyone who, had any meetings, looked into scaling, thought about getting a bigger shop, different machines, expanding into modern things. Um, yeah, I remember him getting his first battery drill. That was a real big deal. Um, and that's how it was. And I think that's how many owners are, not because they are running around with blinders or something. It's just they're good at something and they stick with what they're good at. And as the world
Mm.
around you develops, and that was the same with my grandpa, it's just not going to be good enough anymore. So my
Oh my
drive
goodness.
became the take what I had learned and apply that to people exactly like my grandpa and help them get to where they want to be. Help them not to, have their nap on the workbench in the shop because it's another Sunday where they work 12 hours to prep for Monday morning, but be able to spend the weekends with their families, go on vacation, just knowing that their business is running with or without them.
Mm. That's such a common story, and I'm sorry that your grandfather didn't get to enjoy the benefits of not working, right? But that's so coming out of my space. I was in the financial space for years and years, and planning. We were always planning for the retirement, and a lot of business owners would come in and say, "Yeah, I'm going to sell my company," and I'm like, "Okay, well, what are we going to sell it for?" And they give me some crazy number, and I'm like, "Okay." What are we going to do to ensure that that value will be there when it's time to let go? These are
Exactly.
smart people thinking they're going to sell, but so many people don't even think about selling until it's too late. And they can't, right? Because the business is so intertwined in the owner that they can't let go, or worse, nobody wants it because it's messy and there's not a lot of systems, and it's really that cog of the business owner stuck in it. So I can clearly see how a conversation like this can hopefully open the eyes of the audience to go, oh, maybe I should think about now what I can do today. So later on, whenever that is, hopefully it's longer down the road, they'll be able to sell their company and get something out of it.
Exactly. And taking that one
Hmm.
step back, Marcia, what I see oftentimes when I talk to owners, and again, my family wasn't any different. The first thought is you build something, you do it, well, you get married at some point, you have kids, and one of the kids will take over, right?
Oh,
Like they maybe even do an apprenticeship in the business, but then all of a sudden they decide that's not for them. Like they want their own life. Well, now you're at the point where you're thinking you want to sell, and in a crunch, you're probably 62 years old, you want to retire at age 65. That was always the plan. You figure out 3 years to go and your business is not worth anything. So
mm-hmm.
I can see how many owners are desperate with that. So I wish they would all start thinking about it at age 55, come to find out, and then do what's necessary to get to where they need to be, to get them to where they want to be.
That's a fantastic reason why, because Junior often does not want the business,
Nope.
right? The generational continuation of companies rarely happens anymore. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a perfect example. But my belief is that, the day you start your company, you should be thinking about how you're going to get out,
Yeah.
even from the way that you name your company. And I think that that's really important. But let's dig into this a little bit. You've got obviously you've wrapped your business around the idea of how can I make sure that something you can get something out of it when it's time to let go. What are the core values and you're looking at when you look at a company to help make sure that they can sell that company eventually?
The only thing, well, that's not the only thing. The one major thing is really you got to get rid of this owner dependency. The owner is usually the one, especially in manufacturing, the trades, smaller business, family-owned businesses. They started the business because they were great at something, and they still
Mm.
are. They're good electricians, plumbers, they're great fabricators, they're great with metal, they're a great engineer, whatever it may be. And they build a business on that skill. Oftentimes, the spouse does the invoices at first, a close friend helps in the shop, then the son comes in, whatever it is. And as long as they stay at 3 to 4 people and that makes them happy, that's cool. But all of a sudden, when they're good at what they do, they get more clients. So they need more
Mm.
people. And all the problems start. But they're the ones who want to take all the decision, right? They've built it. It's like their baby, or when you get like a little puppy, you're in charge. And that's the same here. They want to feed the puppy every day. They don't let that to anyone else. And you have all these bids to review on your desk. And, well, you want to make it to the dance recital of your daughter, probably. It's 4:30 p.m., but you still got 10 bids to review. You got offers to send out. You need to make 2 calls back to clients who are upset because you're delivering late. And they take that on. And other people, I don't want to say they gladly take it, but that's the system that has been established without even saying a word about it, right? It's not that he says, I want this. It's just how it happens and how it develops. And the big task here is to
And
break
how they get
that
stuck in
spiral.
it, right?
Yeah. So you need to break that cycle. You need to get out of it. And you were saying something that I really liked earlier, Marcia, which is same thing I always say, from day one, you should make sure that your business is sellable. If you ever want to sell it or not, that doesn't matter. You don't have to. It's your business. You do whatever you please. And I'm not going to come in and tell anyone how to run their business, but I can certainly share a lot of ideas, and whatever they take on is going to help them. And ideally is what we call the owner's box, right? The owner sits in the owner's box. There's a second in command who runs the day to day, and the business just runs without the owner. And
Mm.
that's how you can make it to where you can sell it and probably get good money for it.
I love it. It's so common that they have developed this practice because they started out, it was just me doing the thing, right?
Mhm.
And then I hired somebody, and then I hired a couple more people because I got busy, but I kept doing the thing, right? Instead of evolving and creating new and getting systems and people in place, right? Because you know I think the biggest aha is when we started our company, we didn't think we were gonna, be working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week and
Mhm.
stressing out over everything. We thought we wanted this like, the owner lifestyle, right? Where I could go see the recital. And I wasn't working at 4:30 with, 2 more hours to go, or three,
Yeah.
when you look at your to-do list. So how do they get out of that, right? They don't just wish for it to go away. It's got to happen over time. But what's the first thing that they should consider?
The first thing is really what you had mentioned in the intro, it's clarity. And there's a lot that bunches into this word, but you have to get real clear about where are you, where do you want to go, and how are you going to get there. So the where are you is simple. You look at how big's your business, you look at the numbers, right? Revenue, profit, how many people do you have, how much work can you handle, how many work
Mm.
hours can you put out. Where do you want it to go? The day you want to sell it, the day you want to retire? Like, what do you want it to be? What does that revenue look like? You don't have to go that far. You could go like 10 years out or something, bigger picture.
You could go
And
at the end of the year.
then you start breaking it down to 5 years, 3 years, and 1 year. And the 1 year number, that's the one based off of your big, hairy, audacious goal that you're going to work with. And you're going to, well, take from that essentially what you have to do tomorrow morning, the day after, and every other day you come to the office this year. So you get to that number. And not only for the owner themselves, but for the team. So once you have the clarity about the situation, the next piece of clarity is going to be who belongs and why. What people do you have in your business? Are they a good fit for your business? Are they the right people in the right seats? Or is somebody underutilized? Or is somebody probably over their skis with what they have to do and is expected from them? Which then that piece of them that's over the skis is certainly going to land on the owner's desk. So you got to get real clear. You got to develop a system to score your employees and to find out and have honest conversations with them. Either get them in the right place or make adjustments you have to make so they're good for the business.
That sounds really doable. And it sounds like a lot of times when I have guests come on or other consultants or people out there that talk about clarity, it tends to be fluffy, right? Oh, what's your vision? What's your values? What's your direction? How, well, if we were to align it, and it's very fluffy. I like the way you said, no, this is actually action. What do you want? Where are you going? What are the pieces in here? So you're digging into something that the business owner will actively participate in rather than something of fluff is I guess what I call it. And I know that when you dealing, and I'm sure you have too, when you dealing with a business owner, they want results yesterday. And if you're coming in with this soft, visionary stuff, they tend to put up the Heisman and go, nope, we're not
Yeah.
going to talk about that today. I'd rather go after how many more sales can I get, right?
Yeah.
So this is
And
good. This is really good because it's
that's
stuff that they
really,
should already know.
they should. Oftentimes they
Should.
don't. They know the where are you
Should.
piece
I said
usually.
should.
Right. They know the where are you piece usually, but where do you want to go, especially in the longer term? That's because I mean they're knee deep or elbow deep, however you want it, in the day-to-day fixing stuff. They don't have time to even from the outside look at the business and think about the business. I always, well,
Mm.
being German, I compare it to soccer, right? The game looks very different when you're on the pitch actually as a player or you stand on the sideline as a coach. And business owners need to take that sideline coach view every so often and look at the business from the outside and have a piece of paper and a pen and take some notes about what they see. And that'll give them a lot of insight on what they have to do once they get back on the inside because they don't see it there anymore. So they have to, well, many then act on instinct. And that's the wrong thing to act on. When you see it from the outside and you take your note and you are vigilant, you'll act from experience, you'll act from deep thought, from things you have seen that need to change in the business, and not from, oh, like this is what it looks like being here on the pitch, let's do this. The other thing I want to touch on again is the numbers. I think this is so super important because I like to express everything in numbers I can and be very specific about the numbers because there's no discussion room. Like there is no fluff. That if you want 3 million in revenue and you're at 1 million or you're at 3 million, you want to 10 million, that's crystal clear. There is nothing to add to it, to subtract, to think about. The question is just, okay, how am I going to get there? And that gets
Mm.
the thought machine going.
Hey, quick pause here. If you've ever wondered what your next smartest move should be to grow your business, well, I've built something for you. It's called the Profit Booster Growth Map. It takes only about 2 minutes, it's totally free, and it shows you exactly where you're leaving money on the table and what to fix first. Go grab it for free at profitbooster.biz/growth map. Then come right back to the episode.
Going.
I love it. I love it. So when you're looking on the side of the field, right? And you're looking onto the team that's actually playing and you're acting as the coach. What are some of the things that you encourage your clients to look at when they're looking there?
It's, well, when we start, for example, with the weekly meeting agenda, right? That's one of the first things I'll implement with clients and have them do. So the meeting takes some businesses it's an hour, and other businesses it's an hour and a half, depending on how big they are, what they're discussing. But there's a clear agenda to it, which I'll share here in the end. Um, and it's all about talking about what's most important for the business. So what
Mm.
oftentimes happens, people get in a meeting, they sit together for an hour, the phones ring, like there's important stuff going on, right? That needs to be taken care of right now because a customer is upset, something personal is going on, whatever. So there's no phones, no electronics. This meeting is dedicated to working on the business. Um, and then what happens in the meeting is, well, an issue is being discussed. And it's being discussed and discussed and discussed. So they talk about the same thing for an hour, go on a million tangents, and nothing ever gets figured out. Nothing gets decided. Everybody leaves the room frustrated. It's not an hour or 90 minutes, it's 2.5 hours ranting session with no outcome whatsoever. So it's really how do you get to the root cause of your issues? You always talk about the most important issue first. How do you solve it for good? And out of that comes a decision and some assignments. So
Mm.
clear who is going to do what by when. And then you follow up with these guys and you hold them accountable. And that's the biggest piece too. for the owners. I mean, a business owner who has done this before and who is not afraid of doing it can certainly hold their employees accountable. No problem whatsoever. But they can't hold themselves accountable. It's like, well, guess what? Being carpentry grown, I guess, I don't have all the baseboards in my house. It's just the last thing I'll ever get to. And I bet there is an electrician who has raw wires coming out of the wall in some of spaces in his house, right? Like your trade, your craft, you take care of yourself last because there are so many other things and so many other people you need to take care of. First and foremost, the clients and customers that pay you for what you do. And it's the
Nice.
same with the accountability piece. You can't hold yourself accountable. And that's where you need someone, whoever that is, that has these tough discussions with you as the business owner and helps you stay the course.
I love that because I think what I'm hearing from it is not only are you getting to a solution and not having just this random meeting where you're, pointing fingers and having trouble, but you're working through an issue and you're coming up with a solution and you're giving um, accountability details to everybody or jobs to everybody. Okay, you're going to
Mhm.
do this, you're going to do that. And so it's very clear in this meeting that you're actually going to get things done. My question back to you would be, in this meeting, are we, I mean, it sounds like, are we doing one problem? Are we doing two problems? What are we focusing on and why are we doing this meeting if I mean, do we have a list of problems we're going to work through?
Yeah. So what you do throughout the week, you just collect and write down the problems that the
Mhm.
business has that need to be discussed in the leadership team meeting or in your team meeting. And you bring them to the meeting. And then the team decides which is the most important for the business overall. And that's what you work on first.
And
And
it gives you focus.
it gives you that focus. Sometimes, let me start with like the worst cases, and that's not even the worst case. You have one huge problem and you get it solved in that meeting. Then you have done right by the business because you
Mhm.
solved the most important problem the business has. But some meetings, they're all somewhat smaller. So you probably can solve three, four, five, six in one meeting. And that's both ways are okay. It's just important that you work on the most important things for the business. The other thing you'll find once you get into this and you're really diligent with having the meetings, um, all of a sudden problems drop off the list. And at first that's hard to understand, but then again, back to sports, like take football. What I know about football, which is not much, people tell me it's about blocking and tackling. So you always go back to the basics and you practice and practice and practice the basics so you can really apply them in a game situation when it counts. And you do the same in these weekly meetings, right? You work on solving issues. So all of a sudden, some issues aren't an issue anymore because people will use the same technique and apply them to the problem they run into, and they solve it before it even ever hits a meeting. The other thing is that
Nice.
once you solve the big problems one after the other, you keep working on the base of the business and you keep fixing the base. So once the base is fixed and certain things are in place, and the actions taken could be a new process, a rewritten process, a process that's always been there and finally being adhered to. Um, and with that, you solve other issues because all of a sudden that same solution gets applied to various things. And with that, the issues go away. So you'll see that that list could be humongous in the beginning. And then from month to month to month, it really shrinks.
So let me ask you something. If we've had a problem in the company, so I have a company and I put together this meeting, do I need an outside person to come help me figure these things out all the time? Or should I just innately know that here's a problem, the team's going to come with a solution for their mind, and we think it's going to work, but we just keep trying different things, right? I mean, it sounds like to me that if I have had this problem in the past, I don't know that a meeting is going to solve the problem. Maybe I need some sort of external help because we keep having the same problem, right?
Yeah. Um, to say this carefully, um,
No,
it,
no carefulness is
okay.
no guardrails on the
So this
conversation.
totally depends on you as the business owner, right? Many owners I talk to, I ask, okay, like, what is the problem? And they give me something. We don't sell enough, whatever, which is not the problem. It's just a symptom. Okay. What if you try to fix it? And then they say a million things. Among others, they have talked to people, they have had a coach, and they have read a bunch of books, and none of it helped. So for one, they don't believe that an outside person can help, which I do believe they can. The thing is, you tend to, like when I talked about the carpenter and the electrician, right? You tend to stay in your lane. You take whatever experience you have, which is mixed in with your gut feeling, because that has worked. And so many times you have done great things and you've made a lot of money for yourself in your business and you've executed well for your customers. So you apply the same principles to what you do, and all of a sudden, in certain areas of the business, in certain business situations, that doesn't cut it anymore. There's new skills you need that you don't have, and you won't get them from reading a book or talking to someone. You really
Or
need to
having a meeting,
no, or having a
to
meeting.
poke the bear on that, to
And you need
having a
to,
meeting. So
yeah,
that's where I'm thinking we're having the structure for it, but we're not, I don't know that we're actually finding the right solution.
yeah. And that's where an outside coach comes in, because for one, they can run the meeting. Like I could run the meeting once, two, three times, show them how it goes. I can sit in, listen, give feedback, and then then that's what I do, right? In the weekly or bi-weekly calls I have with my clients. So in the beginning, it's all very structured and tight. And then I just give more rope. And as they learn and practice things and make mistakes and learn from the mistakes and get better at it, all of a sudden they're getting into the flow themselves. And I can pull back further and further and further, which is the goal.
Right.
My goal is always to work myself out of a job within, 18 to 24 months. So the clients know everything they need to know. They've learned everything they need to learn. They still have access and can ask questions, but they don't need me anymore.
Nice. Okay, good. Because, I mean, you hear about this all the time, meeting fatigue, right? And it's not
Yep.
just what's going on in the meeting, it's how many meetings we're having to have meetings to just have meetings, right? I
Mhm.
wanted to say, how are we learning to really solve that problem? I would assume that there is homework or there
Yes.
is,
I mean,
job
there's a
tasks. Oh,
teaching.
go.
Yeah, there's a teaching, there's
Yeah,
tasks, there's homework, there is checks and balances when you come back with the homework. That's sometimes not being done. So you get the same homework again, and the pressure is going to be higher, and then you do it, and then you learn from it, and then you start applying it, and then it evolves. And in the beginning, it's going to be bumpy. Like it's a weekly meeting, same day, same time. And unless somebody dies or you yourself get married, you ought to be at the meeting.
got it.
And that doesn't always work. So it takes some time to grind things in.
So then say we have a problem and we're in the early phase of these meeting cycles and I don't know how to solve that problem. Is it okay not to solve a problem, but to maybe get to the next step? And so we bring it back the next week and solve that problem on that second week?
Absolutely. So
Good.
it's how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Same thing here. Sometimes the problem is too big, so you have to take it into different smaller pieces and just make the first step. Sometimes you don't
Got
know
it.
how to solve it at all, but what you can do is say, okay, within the next 7 weeks until the next meeting, everybody will think about and we will come up with an approach on how to actually tackle this so we can find a solution. So even if you don't have the solution right away, you can at least kind of come up with a process to get to a solution. And guess what? That process you can apply to other problems that you have problem solving, because now you're really working on the bigger system already without knowing it in the first place.
Got it. Okay, so question. This is a fantastic exercise to run a business smoother. How how would you say that this might be able to add more value or create stronger enterprise value for that company by having these regular meetings?
So for one, you will find that having these specific meetings where you work on the business cuts the number of meetings and the length of meetings where you work in the business. So eventually you'll meet way less, and everybody likes that, but you also have outcomes, and everybody likes that.
Hmm.
The other thing is when you start about talking about selling your business, right? Somebody comes in and does their due diligence. They'll want to see the numbers. They want to see that everything is in order, but they'll also talk to people and ask questions. And if there is a rhythm and a clear meeting rhythm and a way, like an NCR process, a non-conformity report, right? How do you solve your problems? And that's repeatable and it leads to good results each and every time. That would incline me to buy a business. If there's nothing there and everything is just owner's gut feeling and he works 80 hours a week, I don't know. That's not for me.
It's not for me. Yes, exactly. I heard this last year or the year before, but from one of my guests that buyers want to buy your business. They don't need to buy your business. And
Mhm.
sellers need to sell their businesses for one reason or another. So putting the shift on making it more desirable for the buyer to want that business because you've got these systems and these
Yeah.
rhythms and these, accountability pieces that are guaranteeing that the business is going to get more done and have a smoother outflow rather than just having, that gut feeling of the business owner
Yeah.
in it.
And also, I like that. And also for the seller, for them to want to sell their business, but not have to sell their business. And that works when your business is owner independent. So you don't
Yeah.
have to talk to every buyer just because you want out in a year. Your business is running without you at this point. So
You
you can
can
as
still kind of
well,
step out, right?
you can still step out and get the profit and live well off of it. And if the right buyer comes along, you have a nice talk and you get into negotiations. But if they don't, you're not in a time crunch now because your business is running and it's making money.
Making good money. Awesome. Thomas, this is really interesting. It's not that it is the direction of a part of it, but I didn't realize that having that weekly meeting would do so much for a company and getting everybody on the same direction, on the same path, able to solve the problems, able to work through issues that are holding the company back by just simply having a structured meeting that goes every week. So I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. That was really, really enlightening for me. So with that in mind, and again, we can keep going on about ways to improve your business, which is the whole theme of this podcast. But where can listeners find out more about you and your consulting firm and how to run these meetings?
They can find out more about me on rectinconsult.com. That's my webpage. Or look me up on LinkedIn and get in touch. The meeting agenda will be in the podcast notes for this episode. So they can, it's a long link, I know. So they can click on the link and download the agenda. And they don't only get the agenda, I made it a 6 or 7 page document with coaching notes as well. So I explain exactly what to do when in the meeting, what questions to ask, how to run it. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But there's a whole lot in there. So if you want to run the meeting and you want to take a crack at it, print the agenda, take it to the meeting and run it that way and see what it does for you.
I think it's going to produce some significant results because I'm a firm believer in having actionable strategies that you can put in your business that actually do something and make the top line grow, make the bottom line grow so you keep more in your pocket, to be able to have a business that runs better. And when it runs better now, it's more attractive later on
Mhm.
to whoever wants to buy it. And then when you've put your blood, sweat, and tears, nights, weekends, savings and everything into it, you now have an opportunity to recapture some of that if you do the work today. And so that's why I'm always talking about that double win. If you make a business great today, you're going to enjoy it more. It's going to be more profitable. You're going to have more money, more freedom. But then it also creates this desirable asset towards the end that creates legacy for Junior, as we talked about in the beginning, or your employees or the community or just having your business, your entity, your idea, your baby that you birthed, right, that grew up and is now a teenager or college going off to college, right, you now have proud, hey, that's my company, I built that,
Yeah.
right, and it's
Yeah.
still going, and I think
And
that's good.
I also think that if you're the person that kind of wants that feeling, but still wants to work 80 hours, just have 3 or 4 businesses. I mean, you can make it an enterprise at this point, but don't change the strategy of what you do in every individual business because it's a pain in the neck to run those. It brings you sleepless nights. So rather have 4 great businesses than one that sucks to fill your 80 hours a week you want to work.
I don't know who really wants to work 80 hours a
I
week.
don't
I
know
think
either,
they
but hey,
get into that.
they're out
But
there.
Yeah, well, I think those are the entrepreneurs that like to build things and then sell them and move on to
Yeah,
the next thing. But yeah, I don't know that someone raises their hand and goes, "Yeah, I want to work my butt off every
yeah,
day, all weekends."
yeah.
But if you're thinking like this, though, you can really put an impact on your company by just doing things a little bit more systemized and a
Hmm.
little bit more operational so that you get the whole team pushing that boulder up the hill.
Hmm.
Smart stuff. All right, this was really good. I don't know about you guys, but I got a really good insight on how to run how to run meetings to really help this. And I hope you did too. I hope you got some practical ideas that you can put into your business today that will help you be more profitable and create that valuable business. And maybe cut the 80 hours down to 75 this week. And work a little bit more smarter in your business and not quite harder. All right, before you go, if you want to have a clearer path to more revenue and stronger profit, go grab your free Profit Booster Growth Map after the show. It will quickly show you the top 3 strategies and opportunities to grow revenue and stop those profit leaks that may be holding you back. You can go get it anytime again after the show at profitbooster.biz. And if this episode gave you value, be sure to subscribe and share it with another business owner who may need to hear it. And we'll see you on next week's show with more strategies to help you grow smarter and profit stronger. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Thomas. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.